Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Choose Positive Living right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest is Heather Dugan. She has a fabulous topic for us to talk about. It's called the Friendship Upgrade. Trade clickable connections for friendships that matter. We're in an era where we are so much about how many people are following us, how many likes do we have, how popular we are, that we forget about the quality of a vibe tribe, of having those people around you that they will always be there. Yes, they can be on social media, but it's still about connections and relationships. She says she's the author of the Friendship Upgrade, and she has said, we've grown disconnected. Many of us live amidst strangers as we tally up our Facebook friends, anew and collectible. You do not have to dust and settle for the soon. It's often easier for an adult woman to find an online date than a real life friend in her own neighborhood. Very true. The Friendship Upgrade illuminates the growing issue of personal isolation and equips women to exchange clickable connections for real-time FaceTime friendships. Through the deeply personal stories of real women, it examines our varied routes to isolation, divorce, and empty nest, increased mobility, as well as the impact of technology, over-efficient living, and the pattern choices that root in chaotic loneliness. More importantly, this book provides us with a roadmap to creating anchoring connections, a model for building a community with the disconnected, you go first woman around us who are silently hoping for the same outstretched hand. Women need friendship. Not an unhealthy one, life preserves sort of ways of organic, good capacity of illuminating grow lights. In the right light, solid female friendships counterbalance the uneven weight of a major life transitions and help us to be the best selves often. Better people than we ever dreamed we might be. Friendships are something you have to work on, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a girlfriend, whoever it is. It's not about I'll just dip in and like and this and that. You always say this about
Right.
social media. It's about interactions.
Yes, and that's an investment of our time and our
Yes.
and our focus.
Mm,
And goodness knows we're so good at like multitasking, although
mm,
that's been proven time and again, our multitasking does not really get us any further and actually kind of downgrades our brain thought
yeah.
quality.
Yeah.
So,
Fragments
right.
instead of focused, right?
Yes. Yeah. So life has changed so dramatically in the last, 20, 30 years. And we're still trying to figure out how to do that. And then with this pandemic that we've been dealing with, all these options are out there. But, like you're saying, the authentic face-to-face friendships are what really keep us grounded and help us be our best selves.
Right. And yes, we can have them online.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we love to have, I'm going out with a colleague for lunch tomorrow, and it's lovely to sit at the table, across from one another and have a good old chatter. But yes, with the pandemic, we've resorted to this, right? Zoom
Right.
talks or phone calls. But do not downgrade the importance of that because it's still
Mm,
connection. It's still that vibe that you're
right.
connecting with each other.
Right. Yes, it is. It's better than nothing, the Zoom, et
Yes.
cetera. But there is a disconnect. I always like to point out, when I look at you for real, I am actually looking at a green light. So, I mean, it looks like I'm looking at you, but there's
Hmm.
this kind of a weird delay thing that happens. And
Hmm.
I even think sometimes the phone calls are more intimate in this kind
Hmm.
of a situation. We need to see the faces, but if you can't be face to face from a safe social distance, of course,
Hmm.
I think phone calls are also a good option. The danger as we've gone through this is that people are developing new habits,
Yeah.
and this feels okay after a while. You don't like it, but it's just like, you get used to clutter in a corner of your kitchen or something. This has become the way we are right now. And we're really gonna have to push ourselves to stretch for what's better when that's more and more of an option for people.
We are tribe people, as I said, find your vibe tribe.
Hmm.
We love getting together. potlucks or getting together over a coffee or a glass of wine. We love that frivolous chatter, but also in-depth talk. And there is something about kind of being together. I used to, do a luncheon every month where just, friends and colleagues would come together. Yes, we would know each other's business. And, if you've got a problem, share it. But it was about camaraderie, about
Yes.
being there for each other. And as especially females, we
Mm.
love being there for each other, don't we?
Oh, it's so important. And one of the elements that I bring in the book is how I kind of build a network here.
Mm,
I found myself very isolated after a couple of transitions, and that's how it typically will happen to people.
hmm.
It's not, there's some self-blame that can happen, like there's something wrong with me, when actually it's often, if you get isolated and feel lonely, it's often an outcome of circumstances that are largely out of your control. And so I started this Wednesday group, and it was really difficult for me to commit to every Wednesday. I am not a joiner. And I
Yeah,
did
no,
not want to,
no.
I didn't, it wasn't really what I wanted to, I didn't want to fill calendar space. Let's put it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
But it became a great way for people it was a resource and
Mm,
just kind of a gathering spot where people could come in with little notice and know that they would find people. And they might know a face or two from last time. They might meet a whole bunch of new people, but because was kind of a pool of people, you were bound to find somebody you would connect with. So
yeah,
then people are able to take that on and really create those kinds of relationships where you are actually calling each other up and going and doing things.
yeah, yeah.
So very important. We're social creatures, as you
We
said.
are.
That's how we kind of see what we are sometimes.
Yes.
If we're by ourselves, we don't always see ourselves quite on par with what we really are.
Right.
There can
The
be some negative
reflection
talk.
back.
Yeah,
Yes.
right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
important.
Well, you
Yes.
mentioned kind of the redirect. Sometimes I think it's called the cosmic two by four.
Uh,
It's a life kind of flattens you, and you've got to rise back up, and you may be disconglobulated. You don't know who you are, why you are, where you're going. And this is even more of a time where you need other people, not to pour out your sorrows, but for other people to see, but do you know how much strength is in you? Do you know how much ability is in you?
yes.
Gosh, this is what an opportunity for you, because if you're in that shattering of end of
Yes.
chapter, it's very hard to see the clarity or the opportunity that it's given you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you need that sisterhood around you to help you kind of see what you're unable to see at that time.
So true. I think it helps us kind of broaden our perspective a bit. And they see, friends will
Yeah.
see possibilities in
Mm,
you that you're not aware of
yeah.
every time because we take it for granted because it's just part of us. And
Yeah.
they can often see what the possibility can grow into, what you can do with it. And it's affirming too. You
Mm,
might think that you enjoy something, but to have somebody reflect back to you that, yeah, you're really very gifted at that. That's something that isn't easy for everybody to do. That's powerful. And it kind of helps you to dream a little bigger as you go
yes.
forward.
We
Mm-hmm.
get caught up in cycles. I had a friend of 20 years, and she was at every event we had, the wedding, the births, the Christmas, the this, the that,
Mm.
everything. And then one day I just received a little note from her, thanks for the last 20 years, goodbye. And,
Oh,
just
oh my
like that. I mean,
goodness.
she was like the adopted sister. And I was just like, I
Yes.
was driving home, literally, I read it when we got in the car, and I was with my younger daughter. She's the one actually about to have a baby, but she was young at the time.
Mm-hmm.
This was about 20 years ago. And she just said to me, thank God. I'm like, what do you mean, thank God? She said, the woman's a leech, and I'm so happy that she's finally severed her ties, something to that effect, And it's like, I'm looking at her, and she's always been a child that can see the deep core of a person.
I
And
see.
it was only when I was removed from that person did I realize exactly how much she was the piranha in my life.
She
When
was draining you.
you don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes when friends come across or family members come across and say, look, this person's not serving you, we go into defense mode of that friendship, but we
Mm.
can't see things objectively because we are immersed in it, right? And we
Well,
also
and
don't
you're
want to do any wrong to our friend.
right. We don't want to hurt somebody. And
Yeah.
often we're trying to do a battle
Yeah.
that actually is from a long time ago.
Yes.
So this triggers some response in you. You want to fix something that happened maybe with a parent or something a few
Yeah.
years ago, and you are kind of playing that out again and again. We get in these ruts very easily. There's
Hmm.
actually a story in the book, one of the women that I interviewed shared, where she had a friend just kind of by to
Mm.
her, and how the and the pain, and that was
Yeah.
painful to her.
Yeah.
From a distance, yes, it took on a different appearance. She began to understand and see the toxicity that was
Yeah.
there. But it's hard. We want to help people, we want to be connected to them,
Hmm.
but we have to help ourselves first. The oxygen mask in the plane,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And one thing I do, I mean, there are some friendships that require a little more. They Perfect reciprocity isn't always the case. You
Right.
want mutuality, but it won't always be
Yeah.
even on any
Balanced. Yeah.
given day,
Mm.
right? It can go up and can go down,
Hmm.
and it's important to kind of. I kind of have a limit on what I allow to come in at once. So,
Mm.
if you know that there's some people that you're kind of helping and boosting, you don't want to do two or three of those in one
Right.
day or even one week,
Ugh.
maybe. Right,
Yeah.
right.
All of
Because
a
you need
sudden
to
you're
be with,
depleted and you don't know why.
yes, yes. And it's so important to realize our friends, all we give to them and they give to us different things. I say
Yes.
there's no BFF, it's BFFs plural in the
Right.
best cases, because we really need to spread it out. And that means that we're willing to share them too,
Yes.
because that's how you build a really strong web of friendships. And that's the important part, because then you're not, you're always going to have people to hang out with, to talk to do things with. Sometimes people want to have like one best friend and one spouse, and that's not enough legs to stand on if
Right.
anybody is gone. These
Yes.
things
Yes.
happen. Hmm.
It's kind of, one of the reasons I love potlucks, because everybody's bringing a dish to the table. And when you look at it, when you look at a buffet, you don't have to partake of everything out there, but it's a
Yes.
choice that's there that you can take a little from here and a little from there. It's the same with friendship. I've got friendships. I have a best friend who's probably never listened to any of my shows. But
Hmm.
if there is something in my life, she is there. She is
Oh,
there
yeah.
every single time. And sorry, that's a new platform we have coming up here. And it just jumps in, and I don't know how to get it to jump back out again.
Okay.
The wonderful things of Zoom, right? That technology.
Yes.
But it's okay that she doesn't, kind of immerse herself in my world, because we have a different
Mhm.
signature. We have a different vibe. Then I
That's
have other
good.
people that are, great at following my shows and
Hmm.
sharing them and everything. Don't expect somebody to be everything for you, right?
Yes,
There are
yes.
different instruments in your orchestra.
Right. Yeah, I always say your stuff is too much for anybody. All of your
Right.
stuff, you have to
Yes,
spread it
yes,
out.
yes.
You do see a lot. People sometimes later in life they have a spouse and they don't. That life is busy and
Mm,
they don't want to give friendships the space and time anymore, because
mm.
they've got kids, or
Yes.
they're drained.
Yeah.
Perhaps life is fast and furious,
Not enough
but
time on the calendar.
right. But I'm like, you can very quickly suck all the oxygen out of that bubble. You need to
Yes,
have that fresh inflow of ideas and people. It's healthy. It's
it
absolutely
is.
healthy.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just too much pressure. And then also, if you put it down to one person, that's going to be your source of, that's where you're going to put all the blame as well. We
Yeah.
have to have a better perspective, which is provided when we enlarge that our own selves.
Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons I do these shows is not only have I learned so much out of them with
Mm,
nearly 2,000 shows that I've done myself, but
wow.
it is to show um, a different point of view. And,
Mm,
we're all going through something. We're all
right.
facing challenges. We've all got choices to make, and
Hmm.
when you actually listen to other people's wisdom, and I say wisdom, not knowledge, because
Hmm.
they have learned the wisdom to understand the knowledge that's needed when
Yes.
it's needed. And you listen to this person and you listen to that person, and you say, oh, I took a nugget from that, and I took a nugget
Hmm.
from that, and all of a sudden I've got all these nuggets here that I could apply. It's
Hmm.
illuminating, it's inspirational, it's inviting. And that's what friendship is, you know,
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I
whether it's
like the
business
idea.
friendship or other friendship is, you know,
Absolutely. Wisdom is kind of comes with the processing, doesn't it?
Yes, it
So
does.
much of that, and that brings in your history, the
Yes.
perspectives, all the tools that you've accumulated,
Hmm.
and hopefully traded up a couple times when you
Mm.
realize that that one was outdated and not
Yes,
needed anymore.
exactly.
But when we talk about how we have different perspectives and wisdom, I think of this whole shared experience of a pandemic that we've had.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
it's a shared experience, but the emotions and feelings and actual day-to-day experience is so different
Yeah.
for each person.
Yes.
Some, it hasn't been that much of a change, and for others it has just
Been
thrown off
devastating. Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that's important we remember that
Hmm.
when we're with people, and just on all levels. That's why we have differences of opinion.
Yeah.
You think of contentious politics and stuff. Somebody's I know.
Contentious being the big word
USA.
there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But I think when you understand that people have had all these different experiences, it's going to make a difference on where they land. And we have to kind of respect the differences that are not totally against our values, and look to see where we might learn from them, as you're saying, and look for ways that we can even collaborate within, because
Yes.
when we work together, it's always a better outcome. It really is. I would say plan B is always better. Plan B stands for better. And
Yes.
when we bring in other ideas, you can't help but improve upon it, because we're limited by our histories and imaginations.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a true colors coach, the four key personalities. And I always think in your business, you need to have a representation of each one of those personalities in order to see the whole picture. And
Oh,
sometimes it's hard to, I have just joint ventured with someone for us to bring our collaborative
hmm.
abundance together and kind of put it into a platform that is like a
Hmm.
directory for us. You can find everything we've got.
Right.
She's got her skills, I've got my skills. And if you can't hire the other skills in your business, you're maybe a solopreneur or smallpreneurs, then make sure you collaborate with other people
Mm.
that have skills that you don't have. Not only are you giving them service, but their service to you, it makes your service to others even better.
Yes, very true. And I love what you're just saying there about the reciprocity thing. Just a quick pivot to that book that we mentioned, The Friendship Upgrade.
Yes.
One thing, when people are isolated, that they don't know, don't understand, and really need to comprehend, if anybody's in that position, this need for connection that we have is a biological need inherent
Hmm.
to all. So when you make a choice to reach out to somebody, they're not doing you a favor by saying, okay, I'll talk to you. You are doing one another a mutual favor by
Exactly.
actually reaching out and going first. So we
Exactly.
need to carry, and that takes away a lot of the fear for people when they understand that.
Hmm.
And it becomes less about me and more about our world, the state of things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think is don't ever approach anybody with what's in it for me.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like, what can we do for each other?
Yes,
And,
yes.
one person may do more for the other at this time period, but who knows later on that
Right.
what you're doing might be more beneficial for them. It isn't like,
Mhm.
well, no, I've given you more than you've given me. Get rid of that thinking.
If you've got a balance sheet going, it's an unbalanced relationship,
It is.
basically.
It
Yes.
is.
Now,
And the imbalance is in yourself, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yes. I like to kind of approach with the idea that, the only expectations I can really have are respect and kindness, both
Aha.
ways.
Yes.
Anything else is just, extra. I mean, you hope for more, you hope to develop more, but really those are the basics that, I mean, that is where, when you're talking about a friendship ending, those are grounds to end it. If there's not
Yes.
respect and there's not
Yes.
kindness. But sometimes this is another thing that actually, this part got edited out of the last book. It'll come in again somewhere else. But I do love the idea of pruning some of these things away, with the idea that they can potentially be grafted back later, because circumstances make people act in very different ways at
Yes.
times.
Yes.
And sometimes we just need that space, as if with this election that we went through,
Mm,
and just some of the
mhm.
contentious polarization type issues we've had, sometimes you just need space so that people can process in their own time and come to their own new revelations on situations and ideas.
Yeah, it is not slamming the door in their face. It's,
No.
leaving open a crack because we all evolve, or we should do.
Right.
And when we do, we've got that clarity. And
Mhm.
no, you're not going to go back to the same relationship you had
No.
before, but maybe there's a new one that could be formed
Hmm.
here. All right.
Yes.
And, there's one of the things I think that should be out of relationships is competitiveness and comparison.
Mm, right, right. That is, and it comes in very sneaky ways
Mm,
sometimes. The women that indulge in gossip, that's
mm,
unfortunate, and and a lot of times it's showing their own insecurity.
yes.
Because they're trying to tell you this so that either you think that they're more in the know,
Mm,
or that you're aware of, that they're just a little bit beyond that person, whoever that is. It's just unfortunate. And I
yeah.
guess in the book, I actually talk about some of the, excuse me, the messages that we actually send when we're
Mm,
indulging in those kinds of behaviors, because it's not what you necessarily think. People think that they're just kind of blowing just a little tap on their own horn, nothing big, but
yeah.
you got to understand how that comes across to other people.
Yeah.
Right.
You can stand tall in who you are and
Mm.
what you do. But
Right.
if
It's
the
enough.
ego then starts lording it over other people,
Mm. Yeah.
now it's kind of losing that balance, right?
Right. I think the big thing is having your own sense of purpose,
Yes.
and that's something that we often don't come to till a little later in life. We're too
Mm,
busy with the details of just getting through whatever, I have three kids, adults
hmm.
now.
Me too.
Yeah, and that's been a big transition to
Yeah.
move from the act of parenting to more of the friendship, which has
Hmm.
been still wonderful. I mean, I really enjoy all my times with them, but I definitely have more time to contemplate deeper things now when I'm not like worrying about carpool and making enough
Yes.
lunches and,
Yes. Yes. I remember that well. Yes.
Yes.
Um, that I think is a huge thing for people. I mean, how many people, once their kids have flown the coop, so to speak, it is like, well, it's now time for me to step into myself.
Right.
I've been so much being the role of other people, the wife,
Mm-hmm.
the head cook and bottle washer, the chauffeur, the counselor, the tutor, the cheerleader, mom, everything, the nurse, it is okay. I'm always going to be there. There's nothing ever going to take away your
Mm-hmm.
motherhood, right? They're always
Right.
your babies. It doesn't matter how old or
Yeah.
tall or big or anything else they are. But it is okay for you now to have time for yourself. And what is it you want to do? You now,
Mm-hmm.
and people say, but yeah, I haven't worked in 20 years. I've raised my kids. What skills have I had? Look at the skills it takes to run a household and kids and everything
Right.
else. Look at all the skills you
Yes.
have. Where can you put them?
Right. And that is a big thing though. That's people
Mm,
get to that place, and that's one of the transitions that really gives trouble, because
yeah,
their social context that they have established all these years, these parents that, they're in proximity with all the time,
yeah,
suddenly they have to reinvent some things.
yes,
And if they have seen themselves, as you say, just as, what else can I do? I'm this. It takes a little bit of time and an open heart, and not, you have to get rid of the fear, I
yeah,
think,
yeah,
but putting yourself with other people that will see your possibilities, and just, you don't always see what you can be until you have that kind of space.
mhm,
I look, my parents died very young, and I was especially close to my father, and it was, when it happened, it was just a very traumatic
yeah,
period of time. It launched a whole bunch of changes, and years later, actually, one of the book events for this book we're talking about was on what would have been his 80th birthday.
mm,
And as I prepared for that talk that day, I realized that his leaving and departing from my life in the way he did, although of course, they're never really gone,
right,
created a space for me to become who I am now. Because
yes,
otherwise, I wouldn't have grown in that direction, because I could
hmm,
always look to my dad, you know?
yes,
And
yes,
then, and it's kind of like that sunlight coming through
hmm,
when, a branch has been dropped aside, there's not a day that goes by that I'm not aware and thankful for something that I learned from parents, but I also understand that as we progress, there are things that we take on more and more as our own, if we have the space to do that. So,
yeah. My dad passed when I was 11, and
ah,
I remember going to my mum and saying, God took the one that was the weakest and left the one that was the
mm,
strongest. And, I've
wow.
always been kind of a knowingness counselor. It's a channel. It comes out. Sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying. I've done this since a child, gone to the teacher, told them something. They go, what? And that became my mum's strength, because for my
Mm-hmm.
mum, it was suddenly that permission to be her. and not someone's
Right.
wife, especially
Yes.
during that time period. And, the last few years with my dad were not easy because
Mm,
if he had complied with the change of lifestyle, he probably would
okay.
have continued to live. Instead, he
Sure.
challenged it because he kind of went back into war mode. The
Yes.
warrior, come on, death, come and get me. And eventually it did.
Right.
And so for my mum had to go through that. And we literally packed up from England and moved to South Africa.
Oh, wow.
And so I was a
Yeah.
teenager. She I remember one day coming home from school, seeing a woman on a motorcycle with long hair, a back of a motorcycle, moving, going into my house. And I go, who the hell is that? It was my mother. And it's like, who are you? And she just blossomed into who she
Isn't
was, because
that beautiful?
she'd never
Yeah.
been given permission to be her. It was always the expectation of what she should be.
Oh, I relate to that. I
Mm,
definitely followed that path myself. I think I
yes,
finally,
yes.
to become myself and feel not afraid to show it or even just to enjoy the process
No
has
apology
really been.
needed, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah. Of course, being your authentic self makes all of life so much better, the way you relate to other people. If you're not connected to yourself in a good way, you're going to have troubles in all your relationships,
yeah.
and you've got to start. And I always say, you start with yourself, then you have your friendships,
Hmm.
and then you get to the romantic one.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they have a space in their life after maybe a divorce or a
Hmm.
death, and they have no partner, and they immediately want to fill that space.
Yes.
But when you are if they don't have the other parts of their life in place yet, it's kind of like I always say, like, trying to find dinner in a convenience store. Anything's going to taste good, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, change your appetite, change,
yes.
yeah, upgrade.
Right. You need to not be so hungry, and then you
Yeah,
can make better
and
choices.
you want someone to love you in your life, but first you've got to love yourself. And that
Yes,
journey
yes.
into that self-love, into your own beautiful flawsomeness.
Hmm.
And then somebody's going
And
to love you in that light, and you know that it's at least equal.
I have another book called Date Like a Grown Up, and anecdotes, admissions of guilt, and advice between friends. And one of the big difficulties for people is looking for a partner to kind of give them a life instead
Complete
of.
them.
Yes, exactly. And it's like they don't, they're just kind of in a hurry. And I understand
Mm,
being in a hurry. I remember that vibe myself. I had that definitely at one time. But understanding who you are, you're going to connect and match with somebody so much better. You can find a right fit
yes.
instead of trying to squeeze yourself into somebody else's box, or
Yeah.
try to make what they are okay and
Box.
work with. Oh, so yeah, I
Forget
don't
about the
like that and
boxes.
that and that, but whatever. Yeah, okay. I can make that work if I lean this way,
Yeah. And pretzel. No, no, no,
Right.
no, no, no
Right.
pretzels.
Yes. Yeah. We
Yeah.
need to, yeah, it's just for flow. You
Yeah.
absolutely need to not be double thinking everything you're saying and doing, because it needs to come from within you. Then
Yeah.
you don't have to, it's a lot easier anyhow.
Yeah. Stop looking for the light outside. It is within you. Switch it on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Right.
good. That's good.
That,
Right.
we are just so much more than we've allowed ourselves to be. And I've been single for a very long time, and I'm
Mhm.
happy being alone with me. Would I like someone in my life? It would be very nice.
Yeah.
But there's no way I'm going to, oh, I need somebody in my life. Anybody will do. No,
Right. No,
I enjoy my own company. Somebody
yes.
who else who can enjoy my company on the same level would be nice, but it's not a priority. Learn to
Right.
love and live with yourself.
I see it as, I have a good life. Finding a partner is not going to make or break it.
Right. Yeah.
It's already good. You
Yes.
hope that you will have that. It would be wonderful to add that, certainly, but it needs to be the right ad, as you say.
Yes.
You should both be able to help one another be the best person you can be.
Hmm.
It should be, and the danger as we get older is that we can get rather rigid in
Mm,
our our habits.
yes.
So you have to maintain your flexibility so that
Yes.
you can actually be a partner to somebody at some point if that's your desire. But yeah, it's fully possible for all of us. It's just a matter, like you say, you don't want to settle for. There's an opportunity cost when you settle for somebody that you shouldn't be with.
Right.
You don't know what you're
Yes.
missing, right?
Yes. And you're back into that pretzel again, and
Right.
it's how long did it take you to get out of that, and why you're allowing yourself to
Mm,
go back into it? It's um
yes.
be more to yourself, and then you will exude that out and be abundant to everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
But it is about, your I have I can count on my hand the good, actually three very good friends I can count on. Right,
Mm-hmm.
that my sisters, we don't see each other all the time, but when we do, it's right there, the
Yes.
vibe is there. I have then a lot of um other women that maybe are colleagues, but we're also friend colleagues. And so
Mm-hmm.
not every friend you're going to have is going to be on the same level,
Sure.
of this bosom buddiness, but that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean they're any less of a friend.
Right.
Right.
The value
Again, in
is,
the orchestra,
yes.
they're different instruments.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I think that's a very good point. We value different people for different
Right.
things.
Yes.
And that's fine. To expect the one that you discuss books with to also do the hiking with you too might be a little too much. They
Right.
might be more into other
You
things,
might fall
but
off a cliff as you're reading the book while you're hiking.
and then you've got that on you. Yes. Not good, not
No,
good.
not good.
But yeah, but it's fun. I appreciate the friends and that have different skills and different
Mm,
interests, because you do learn from one another.
yes.
Some of it isn't exactly what I necessarily want to do, but a lot of it I have found my life so enriched
Yes.
because we can't possibly, here's my thing. I look at, my life and I'm like, I'm never going to have enough time.
Right.
Everywhere I want to go, everything I want to do, all the,
Right.
and each person that we meet, we kind of tap into their whole web of
Yes.
experiences. And
Yes.
so it allows us to see a little more, get a little further in a direction that wouldn't have been open to us possibly. So
Exactly.
I love the way it broadens what we see and experience. I
Yeah.
say any conversation, any person I meet, there's always something in there that I can
Right.
take and be grateful to know and
Right.
learn from.
Somebody comes back from a trip, the first thing you want to do, have you got pictures? Come and share with us, because now you're
Yes.
sharing in that experience, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's
Yeah.
you're participating in their experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of
Right.
the big things that people are not doing is they're so busy looking at, well, fix me. And but
Uh,
it is about you participating in your own life.
right.
It
And
isn't
yeah.
applying a stick on. It's an
Right.
inside out job.
Yes, and giving yourself permission, failure is information. It's not a
Yes.
judgment on us. So that
It's a
means,
lesson.
yeah, one of my favorite, I used to say it to my youngest kid, you saw the mistakes your brother made. You saw where
Mm.
your sister messed up. All I ask is that you make original mistakes. So the idea being,
Yes.
we want to be creative and try new things.
Yes, you don't
We don't want to
repeat.
do a rut. You don't want to
Right.
do a rut and do the same thing over and over.
My
And ruts are
brother did
easy
it, so I'm
because
going to do it.
yeah. I mean, and it's kind of familiar, so you slide in. But
Yeah.
you don't want to close off creativity
No.
in the hope of doing everything right.
Yeah.
We have to fail a few times, and frankly, I told you, before, the plan B is always better. B stands for better.
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about failure, I don't even like that word, because it's like
Yes,
you fall down and you get back up. The failure for me is when you choose not to get back up and give up.
yes,
Right.
that's
But
very true.
we have light bulbs because Einstein did it a thousand times.
Yes,
No, we don't have to do something a thousand times, but what we've got to do is be persistent and go, you know what,
yes,
that avenue didn't work. Okay, shift,
right. It's
pivot.
information. It's
It's information. I
information.
know what didn't work. Now, out of that, well, knowing that doesn't work, maybe this will work. And I
Hmm.
think also something very important to keep in our lives is a sense of wonderment.
Yeah, curiosity is it.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to totally misquote this, but there is an Irish poet that had a saying about how curiosity will conquer more than bravery. It conquer
Mm,
fear better than bravery. And I think that's true. If you go through life with a curiosity, and I kind of think I tag my dad with that quality, and I certainly see it in my children, you know that that makes every day exciting. There's
yes.
something to be gained from
Yes.
every experience. When we get, I don't say get lost, but when we have our off the map moments,
Yeah.
that's a nice little euphemism, yes. But I'm like, we're not going to be here again. Take it in. It's
Yes.
all something that you can gather as an experience, because it's everything. We've got finite time,
Mm, we do.
and we don't want to, I think of people that go through a tough transition, like one of the ones we mentioned earlier. Maybe a relationship ended, or maybe they have lost a job, those
Yeah.
kinds of things.
And with
And
the
it's under
pandemic, how many people have lost a loved
yes,
one?
Exactly.
as
It's
well as a
horrible.
job and everything else. So
It's
yes.
a lot all at once,
Mm,
and it takes time to go through the loss and to grieve it, and you grieve it at different levels, as you know. It takes
yes.
a lot of time to process all that. But there are people sometimes who they kind of sit down by that roadblock and never want to move again.
Hmm.
They see it as a dead end instead of a detour. I mean, it's
Yes.
not what you wanted, it's not what you had mapped out, and yet it doesn't have to be the end of everything. And there's so many, it's difficult. With the talking and just some of the counseling type things I do, a lot of people get stuck, and
Yeah.
that's painful to watch
Yes.
because they're kind of ignoring their own possibilities because they're lost, wanting to either go back to something they can't have, or to, they're looking for an opportunity that just isn't in the direction they want to go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They get crippled by fear.
yeah,
And they're so crippled by fear they just don't know their way out. And
right.
it's I've seen it plenty of time, and I go, okay, what are you afraid of? I don't know. I'm just fearful.
You know what? I think a lot of times we're more afraid of our capacity to handle something than the thing
Yeah.
itself.
Yes.
And the more that you go through things, I mean, nobody wants to go through tough circumstances, but you begin to learn, I may not have it all right here, know exactly, I don't may not know exactly how I would handle it, but I have the tools and the resources that I could get through it. I will be able to come up with a plan. People will help me. You have to trust that,
Yeah.
it really, life is I think of it as being more like on a surfboard. You have to keep
Hmm.
adjusting your balance. I am
Yes.
not a surfer, but I
Yeah.
think of that all the time. It's not like you figure it out. And so therefore you just like hold it rigid because
Right.
you don't want to change your balance. No, you constantly have to change your balance.
Yeah.
And that flexibility is what allows us to, recognize the new opportunities,
Hmm.
and I think, just like you said, to enjoy the
Yeah.
experience. I mean, and what a waste if we don't.
We don't know how strong we are, how courageous we are, or what abilities we have unless we're willing to go through the process.
Right, right. And that's where you have to get up from in front of the roadblock, the dead
Yes.
end, and say, this isn't what I planned,
Right.
but let's see what's out there and let's see what I can figure out. I've got this and I've got that. I know this person. This person might have gone through something similar. How can I begin to build something good from here?
Most of the
So,
time, we don't move forward because we either don't know how, or we're
mm,
afraid we'll fail,
mhm,
or it is, a question of, could there be anything more out there for me?
mm,
And again, go back to that wonderment. If you have a sense of exploration and go, all right, the
mm.
end of chapter in this book of life,
Right,
it's a new
right.
chapter to be written now. I'm going to hold the pen in my hand
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to
Yes.
write. Now, every word I write down may not happen. But
Mm-hmm.
what I'm telling the universe is where I want to go. And then
Yeah.
I have to step into allowing the universe to
Mm-hmm.
take me there, right? But have some optimism.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I did a career talk a couple of weeks ago, and as I was thinking about what I wanted to share with the girls, my daughter said, be sure you tell them that they can change their minds.
Yes,
And that's so
yes,
huge because I mean, I look at my own path. There are things that seemed unrelated at the time, but then as you go forward, you're realizing nothing, all these things they've helped kind of create this new space where, they seemed like unrelated talents and skills.
right,
And then, the world changes, you change, and then it kind of gels together. And there may be things that you just simply get tired of and don't do anymore.
right.
Years ago, I decided I was doing a lot of different things, and because I enjoyed them, and I was, but I realized if I was ever going to develop in the ways I wanted, that I needed to pare things down a little bit.
Mm,
And so I went with the idea, what am I uniquely gifted at? A lot of people are good at this. I'm good at this, but a lot of people have a similar skill set. What can I bring that is totally from me?
yeah,
That's going to be something that's really difference making, that I alone, or one of the few, can make happen. And that's when you put your energy there, I
yes,
think you're going to be a lot happier in how you're living your life. And I think that you just provide so much more value if you really are looking for what your unique gifts are.
yes. 2 points I have here. I was given a blueprint over 3 years ago. And 3 years later, I'm only now putting it into action. And I had to wait for the right timing, the right person, the
Yes.
right alignment. Just because you've got this vision doesn't mean it's got to happen right now. What
Yes.
it is that's what you're working towards. Now, the vision always made sense, but it was the how, the who, when, and where that was
Yes.
the journey into making the vision come to be. And that is patience, right?
That
And
is
balance
wisdom.
again.
Yes. Yes. It's so true. Because timing, I mean, a lot of times we see it and we sabotage ourselves
I
because we're
want it
trying to jump
now.
there.
Yes.
Yeah, we have no bridge. So we're trying
No.
to jump. And it's
Yeah.
like but you
Ooh.
continue to develop, you develop the other things
Yeah.
the relationships, the skills. Yeah. Just because we can't be there right now doesn't mean we're not going to get there.
Or that it's a
But if
wrong
you,
vision, right?
yes, yes,
It's just
right.
how you're going to do it isn't the way you thought. But if you
Yeah.
allow, and it goes back again to the friends, share
Mm-hmm.
that vision with your group of friends. I love
Yes.
this idea. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? I would love to work with you on this. And now the picture starts coming together,
Yeah,
right?
the more we
That's,
share, I mean,
yes,
there's more dimension then. When you
yes,
share, you
yes.
really, you see the possibility. I mean, there's a lot of ideas I've had that I dream too small. And other people would see other possibilities within
Mm,
it. And it's, that's beautiful. We
yeah,
need that. And hopefully we provide that to others
right.
ourselves.
And
Because,
when it feels right at the core, right? There's so many times, well, you should do this, and you go, she's good at what she does, and maybe I should do that, but it's not really my thing. Then don't do it. It's a
right.
great idea for you, but it's not something I can apply to myself because I'm not aligned with that way, right?
Yeah, shoulds are a bad guide. The
Yes,
shoulds
yeah,
are just, yeah, it really, we need to be making choices that are truly in line with what we wish and what we see where we can add value. I think we give them a lot of calendar space, and
yes,
that's unfortunate.
yeah. It's kind of going back to that thing again that I was saying about the competitiveness or the comparison. Well, she's had a lot of success doing that. And if I did it that way, would I have that success? Her success is because of who she is.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
success will be because of who you are. Whatever you do, always bring your abundant self to everything you do.
And celebrate that friend that is
Yes.
successful.
Yes.
I mean, and this women's group that I mentioned, and obviously we haven't been able to meet in the ways we normally would. And through this past year, we've done some hiking, and that kind of thing, and a little bit of virtual. But thankfully, there's so many relationships that have formed within it that people are still keeping that
Yes.
connection as part of their lives through this. But one of the big things that I remember one woman commenting on was how everybody celebrated the successes of others, and it's genuine.
Yes.
And when you're in
Yes.
that zone, somebody else's success does not lower your value.
No.
It's almost like the draft on a bike.
Yes.
It helps
Could be your
you can kind of
generator.
draft into it. You
Yeah.
draft into
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that's exciting, that kind of
Yes.
energy. Right.
Yes. Oh my God, she did that. Like, what's holding me back? Let's just get up into another gear here.
Yeah.
And because we are our own worst enemies, and we can talk
Oh,
ourselves out of anything or into something we
yes.
shouldn't be
It shouldn't be
getting into.
doing,
Yeah.
right. I've talked a lot about that. I call it the hateful heckler that we have in our
Oh.
heads sometimes. And I know, and it is just awful. And I know I worry about a lot of people that are spending more time alone right now, because
Mm,
unless you're aware of this and really address it, I
yes.
mean, that will take you down, down, down. But I decided several years ago that I would not say anything to myself that I wouldn't speak to one of my children.
I like
And
that.
that changes everything.
Everything.
Yeah. And then beyond that, even, um, we're adults. We're supposed to motivate ourselves. We can't be looking to other people for encouragement, really. I mean, it's
Right.
nice when it
Yes.
happens, but I say be your own cheerleader too. So
Yeah.
I am very vocal with myself. Sometimes, not always out loud, but in my head, and sometimes out loud, it's like, go Heather. And, that wasn't quite the way you were aiming, but hey, you got it done. Good job. And boy, that was a
Yes.
lot to juggle today. Good for you. We need to hear that. Nobody else is going to say it. We need
Um,
to say that to ourselves. And that
yeah.
makes you it's
Fulfilled.
happier, and
Yes.
you are more motivated,
Hmm.
and you just, you kind of get into your better zone when you're able to kind of praise the things that you do well. Unfortunately, for some reason, we seem to think, oh, whether it's like you heard as a child, oh, don't get a big head, or
Yes.
if I poke a hole in it first, nobody else will say anything.
Mm.
Then let me show you where my
Yeah.
flaws are. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're here. Okay,
Yeah. No.
yeah. But instead, focusing on the other things, the positives that we're doing. I mean, not like you totally bury your mistakes that you need
Yes.
to do better on, but just giving yourself grace. We give it to
Yeah.
other people. We need to be very, very lavish in giving grace to ourselves as well.
That was a lesson I had to learn, and my kids actually
Mm.
taught me because
Mm-hmm.
I was in a marriage of put down. And
Oh.
and when I was coming out of it, the kids would get heavy with me.
Mm.
Stop putting yourself down. You're this, you
Oh.
are that, because I was
Yes.
still in that, unworthiness. Right. So
Yes.
and I had to get worthy, and it would be them reflecting back what they saw in me that I had not yet seen in myself. Right.
Yes.
And
And
then there's that big P word, permission
mm,
to be more than what you think, that
mm-hmm.
judgment of somebody else's insecurity that was dumped on you, and
Yeah.
permission to be yourself, and you are enough.
Right, right. And just kind of cutting that, cutting those little cords. I
Yes.
love what you said about your kids there, because I think that for many, that one of my realizations was that I was not modeling the strength of a person that I wanted my children to grow into.
Yeah.
And realizing that was illuminating,
Yeah. Huh.
and it gave me a lot of courage, actually, because I knew I had to do better, because I didn't want them to repeat the same things,
Right.
to feel like they were less.
Yes.
And so it's important. And I talk about a lot too. We have a real problem with, the connections that we make as adult women sometimes. I mean, and that's why I've really focused on this the last few years. But consider too what you're modeling to your kids. If you're
Hmm.
not connecting with authentic friendships, what are you showing them for their future? They need to understand the value of, not just texting their conversation back and forth, that it's important to pick up the phone and call, that it's important to meet in person. It's important to make calendar space for people instead of just like trying to squeeze them into your life when you get a minute.
Right.
And yeah,
That's where where the
they
value
learn
is.
so much from us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's usually not the things we're saying, it's the things they're seeing. So
There
mhm.
used to be those great ads. I don't know if you remember them. You would see a kid smoking, ha 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 ha, ha,
Ah,
and it was complete in drinking, and be a 3 or 4 year old completely mimicking the
oh,
parents, right? You know,
yeah.
we they are sponges, and they're absorbing
Mm,
everything we are and do to them.
right.
That we are being, and it's the same actually with an animal. If an animal is playing up, it's not the
Mm,
animal's fault. They're picking up
mm,
that friction that is
vibe.
in your
Yeah.
life, right? So,
Right.
sometimes if you find your kid saying or doing something, go, oh my God, oh, maybe this is time for a conversation with myself,
Hmm.
and it's
Yes.
okay to realize you make a mistake. It's okay to realize that maybe you shouldn't do that. Now you know better.
Hmm.
You can now change that. That's the beauty of it. We can make the choice to change.
Yes. And I think, again, as in terms of modeling to our kids, it's so important to say, hey, I did that badly. I made a
Yeah.
mistake there. Because, you look at people that grow up with this whole perfectionist tendency, that comes, right, right. I mean, that comes from somewhere. I mean, some
Mm,
of it, their personality, genetic things that can happen within
yes.
us, certainly. But it's important to let them know that, you still love yourself, and you can still love somebody else when we make mistakes, because otherwise, we're going to be tapping down again and not being
Yeah.
curious and trying new things. So we're going to
Right.
make mistakes, and that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
That's
Love
fine.
your flawsomeness, right? Um,
Right.
the same thing as those with your friends. If you want
Mm-hmm.
your friends to treat you with respect, right back at them. If you want them to
Mm-hmm.
listen to you, give them time to listen to them. If you want them to
Yes.
celebrate you, celebrate them. We do
Mm.
reflect and mirror each other.
Right.
If you are encouraging yourself and them, then they're going to want to do that back. Not because they have to, because
Mm-hmm.
they're in that beautiful vibe of like, I feel I'm being contributed to.
Yes, you can create positive contagion.
Yeah.
I think it's a wonderful space to be in when that's
Yes.
going on.
Yes.
I think of there. I think I came up with the term, but proactive kindness. The idea
Mm,
of not just responding kindly, but really looking for ways to be kind, and just
yes.
I that's huge. That's
Hmm.
huge, and that communicates value at a whole different level. I think to people when they see you do something kind that wasn't necessarily on the agenda or that was unexpected. That's
It's
totally
just
unexpected.
sometimes it's just, as you said, a phone call or a smile.
Right.
It's just letting somebody know I see you. If you're
Exactly.
you're grabbing a coffee and the poor barista is kind of, ah, and it's like
Yeah.
having a bad day. Yeah. And it's like,
Right.
oh God, I hope it gets better from now. Thank you. All of a sudden
Yes.
you've seen them, you've acknowledged them, but you've now shifted them because
Yes.
you cared.
That is so fundamental because those little details
Yeah.
make huge differences in people's lives every day, every day.
Yeah.
Just being aware of other people. And also, I think as we've gone through this whole quarantine and, just the isolation that we've had, we can lose our other awareness. And it's
Yes.
important to really, really grow that, to see people, to acknowledge them. If you're wearing masks, to wave,
Yeah.
because we've lost so much of the visual cues that we usually depend on to communicate and to
We
understand
need
one
to
another.
smize now. What's the model?
Yeah.
Always
Yeah.
talking about smizing, smile with your eyes.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. And so you really have to go big on that in order to, that's why I always throw in the wave too, or they think you're
Yeah.
like a clown or something. But, and that's the danger with texting and
Yeah.
email and social media too, is that we lose
Lost in
social
translation.
cues. Yeah,
Yes.
we really,
Yeah.
really need to use everything available to us that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a gift when you really get to interact with somebody. And I think giving that freely and also receiving it, being willing to be open to other people, even if you're standing in line, don't whip out your phone, but see who's with you,
Right.
take a moment.
Yes. I love coffee bars. And
Mm.
I love going to coffee bars, on my own, which I do a great deal, and just meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
The chance meetings, where do you come from, this, that, etc. It may just be that, or it may lead to something else, who knows?
Right.
But it's
Right.
just like we're two people on our own, let's have a conversation. We've now made each other's day.
Yes, yes, and it's that like tapping into that other web that we talked
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Now you have a little more information about a whole new place and a whole new person, a whole new life. Our experiences are so rich and varied, and I just really appreciate the way people have developed their lives differently than myself. I don't have time to do it all. So I loved our conversation just before we got started, and I got
Mm.
to learn a little more about how you've been developing your life and the changes you've had. And that's exciting. It
It's
really,
encouraging too, isn't it?
mhm,
When we know, oh my gosh, they had that adversity or that blockage, that this, but look, they
right.
decided to go through the process, and look where they're at
Yes.
now. They're so happy. They're living a meaningful purpose. Surely the courage lies within me too.
Oh, yes. That's my next book. I really get into. I've been working a lot on that relationship with self. So I kind of
Yes.
I wrote backwards. Date like a grown up. Then I say that the friendship upgrade was the prequel to that, and then this is kind of the prequel to both of those. That you figure it out as you go. But I kind of wish I had a before picture that people could, of who I was, several years ago. I'm trying to even put a timeline on it. 20 years ago,
Me too.
I never would dream that I would feel this content and happy. And those things weren't possibilities at that point for a number of reasons. And I kind of feel like if I could get past all that,
Yeah.
anybody can. It's not like there's not a challenge in it, but
An
I
encouragement.
think it's a boost. There's
Yeah.
a boost there because that's the thing. I wish I had a way to demonstrate how bad it was
Right.
because
Yes.
it really would encourage a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I
Um,
look back on my 20 years, and
mhm.
I go, oh my God, who was I then?
Yeah,
And like, oh God, I'm so
right,
happy with myself now. And I wouldn't have
right.
been had I not been willing to go through my own forgiveness of
Hmm.
others, my own process, making sure I have the right people around me, that, we really do
Yes.
care about each other, doing something in your life that is meaningful to you.
Hmm. What's hard is you have to let go of a few things. And I
Mm,
think people are so reluctant. It's kind of like, Tarzan's hanging on a vine and trying to, they don't want to let go of one and they need to
yeah,
let go in order to grasp onto a new
yeah.
direction. And, if we've seen ourselves in this way and been seen by others, perhaps in a
Mm,
family context in this way, it can be difficult to envision anything differently. But, letting go of that and doing that pivot, which I always say, there is opportunity within everything. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, it's a matter of kind of shifting the perspective. But, I found I just had a time on crutches again. I had an ankle surgery. That's
mm.
the third one I've had.
Oh my goodness,
And
I had
each,
one and that
I,
was enough. Thank you.
okay. Well, this time I had a replacement and I'm a big hiker. My kids and we do big mountains.
Right.
I'm very, very active. And I have been able to find like fun opportunities within these experiences and I gain new skills.
Hmm.
And so a lot of how I've been able to do these and not fallen. I mean, because people write to me and it can be very depressing to hear
Hmm.
that you will be incapacitated for a period of time.
Yeah.
Um, but, and I'm like, not necessarily. I was still out on my crutches doing walks,
Yes.
but it's all about looking for what the possibility is
What can
within the
you do, not what
situation.
what you can't do, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you make accommodations, you
Yeah.
shift a little bit, but you don't endanger yourself emotionally or physically, but you look for what you can do. And it's just thinking in a new way, thinking a
Yes.
new way.
Yeah. It all it is an obstacle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean it's the end of days. Right.
Opportunity for a new achievement. That's what I like
Exactly.
to say.
And
Yeah.
it reminds me of a wonderful Circus Soleil where there was a guy on crutches. Now, I think somewhere along the line he had broken his ankle.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a
Yeah.
performer, and he created a performance on the crutches that stayed. He did things on those crutches that were magical,
That's
magical.
beautiful.
So obviously, out of something that could have been, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
can't perform anymore. It's like, no, I've just got to perform in a different way.
Yes, exactly. I wish everybody could kind of grasp onto
Yeah.
that. And I think we can,
Mm,
it's just a matter of understanding that that's there. We're very, when we see a set path, and a lot of times we're just not aware that there's, other uh, little journeys off of that. This is what everybody always does. So that
yeah.
must be what you do. You sit and you wait till you recover and then you go live your life again. Well,
Right.
let me tell you, there's a few weeks in there. You better be living your life during those few weeks too,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Yes.
Differently, but enjoy them.
Yeah.
Right. Mhm.
Um, Obstacles are going to happen in your life.
Oh, yes. We can
Redirects,
expect it.
challenges, all of that. It's all part of living. If
Mhm.
life was just blah, oh God, how boring it would be. When we're never given more than what we could cope with, we've just got to find the ways to cope with it and
Right.
thrive from it, because there is
Mhm.
always an opportunity to thrive from some situation.
Yes,
Right?
yes. Yeah, definitely. I think, we have these GPS coordinates in our head and we just get, it's like we don't like it when we hear, renavigating, and hear that we want to do it the way we had it planned.
Yes.
But indeed, and there's we really hurt ourselves when we're
Yes.
not willing to consider other possibilities. I mean, it can be very safe, it can feel very, but I think, without the downs, we don't appreciate the ups. And I
Right.
think as we learn to see the downs as information and
Yes.
and some of those things, then we really land more in the middle more.
Yeah.
And that's a good place to be. When we go up, we know this is great. This isn't going to be forever, but it's
Yeah.
wonderful. I appreciate this. And then you're not so, when you go down a little bit, you're like, well, it's not going to be the end of things.
Yeah.
So, and that makes life, you don't have fear. You simply, adjust your stance as you
Yes.
go.
You're like,
Hmm.
hey, I don't know this. Oh, this is exciting. I'm going to learn. Right?
Yes.
Don't go,
Yes.
I don't know it. I can't do it. It's like,
Mm,
okay, all right, you don't know what you can do until you try.
right.
Right?
Right.
Just explore
People.
the opportunity
Hmm.
of learning to see if you, and if you can't, it's not the thing for you. What you have taught yourself is that you do have the courage to try.
Yes, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of one friend of mine who her job vanished in the middle of this, and she went in a totally different direction
Yeah. Yeah.
in terms of totally new skills,
Yes.
financial type stuff, and
Yeah.
she never would have seen herself in that light. And it was really empowering. I mean, she's in her 50s, and it's like, yes, the brain works. It's a
Yes.
good thing to challenge ourselves in those
Yeah.
ways.
The oldest person I've interviewed is, was she 88 or 89? She started her own TV station at 87.
Huh.
She's a woman of chutzpah. I mean,
I
really,
love it.
and it's like, I'm still living. I'm not
Hmm.
dead yet. I'll just
Right.
keep doing until I'm gone. you know,
Yes.
and
Oh,
that's the
that's
thing.
the way to be.
Yeah.
I think it's enjoyable, and not to say less of the people that are. Some people really are happy to kind of get into a holding pattern,
Yes.
and that's
Or
some
plotters.
people are wired that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like to say I'm content but not complacent.
Right.
I
Yes.
see things I still want to just experience.
But we,
But
we, we say in a relationship, with your children, with your spouse, with your friends, is that your life may be kind of just a nice little plotter, but every now and again you need to go and do something to bring the
mhm,
spark back, or to keep the love alive, or to make sure your friends you're out there laughing with them, or to show
mhm.
your children that life isn't just linear. So,
Yes.
it's having those highs. We don't want you to have the sugar high and you crash. We just want you to have a joyful experience that carries you over until
Right.
the next joyful experience.
Right. And the common denominator in all those joyful experiences, usually, I would say, if not always, is having people share it with you that you care about.
Yeah.
So,
It means more
that's where
that
the
way, doesn't
value,
it?
yes, that's where the
Yes.
value is in the experience. I mean, you
Yeah.
can still have like a really great time by yourself. I've traveled by myself,
Yep. Yep.
and I'm glad, but I did meet people too. I
Yes.
met families and people, and that was a big part of my enjoyment.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah, we definitely, joy is definitely enhanced when we and share it with those that we care about.
Yeah.
That's
The beautiful thing about traveling alone or doing things on alone is that, open invitation to meet and greet. It's
mm-hmm.
like, I went on a cruise and I called it my, single in training. But I was 49 at the time, and the youngest man in there was 70 and snatched up by an 18-year-old or something. It's just like
You
the.
didn't have a shot.
So no. So I thought, okay, it's not that kind of training, but it
Mm-hmm.
was just a wonderful time for me to kind of download. It was, I think, the first journey in doing something purely and utterly for myself.
Yes,
And
yes.
we've got to be a little selfish sometimes. We really do.
Yeah. And learn to be an initiator.
Yeah.
That's when you put yourself in that kind of a situation, you're going to have to generate some of the interaction. And it's good to begin to feel confident in doing that, understanding that, it's a positive thing you're doing for both of us when I see you. Let's have,
Yeah.
let's talk, smile at them, you're kind of you're affirming their value,
Yeah.
and we all need that,
Yeah.
and then that comes back, and we have that nice little cycle of reciprocity going.
Yeah. Few things one needs to get rid of, as I said: comparison, competition,
Yes.
guilt, doubt, fear. And the only way we kind of put those in their place is to face them, right?
So
And
true.
let them know where they belong.
I remember way at the beginning of the pandemic, doing some talks on Zoom, of course,
Hmm.
and talking about that sudden stop that we had. For a lot of
Hmm.
people, I mean, because we live in a world of digital distractions. That's a
Yeah.
whole nother
Yes.
topic. It's really impacted the way we process things. But when it all stops, a lot of people suddenly are aware of what's been spinning around back here.
Yes.
And we don't want to look at it because it looks like it's a lot, and because it's all swirling together. And we kind of have to stop and let all of that have a landing at some point.
Hmm.
And the way you do that is really, like you're saying, to identify each element that's there, because anxiety comes from, it could be fear, it can be guilt, it can be, all of that can swirl together. And if we keep it in a big knot like that, we can't address it.
No.
And pulling them apart, then they're not so big one by one. And you begin
Right.
to understand, and you can say, well, I feel that way because of this, but I now know this.
Hmm.
And it turns out that's not quite what I thought it was there. You kind of can talk yourself through that. And that's just a huge life skill.
Yes.
It changes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, we had the gift of time to review,
Yes.
right? And to
Yes.
really renew. And again, so many people I've interviewed are saying, like, I'm grateful for the full stop. It took
Mm-hmm.
me, like your friend, in a totally new direction. and I
Yes.
really do love what I'm doing now. Right. So
Yes. Yes.
sometimes that cosmic 2x4, whether it's a pandemic or something in your own
Hmm.
life, don't look at it as a be all and end all. Look at it as a redirection.
Yes. A lot of us came into this with way too much going on.
Oh,
And
way too much overload.
yes. And I've been saying this is a great time to evaluate what new things have come into my life that I want to keep.
Yes.
What do I not have that I'm only now recognizing that I've never had that I need to create? And what do I not miss?
Right.
What really
What's
doesn't
really
need to be there?
important.
Because when things ramp up, it's real easy to let all those little shoulds come back in
Yes.
again. And you just kind of need to close that door and
Yes.
say, wait a minute, I'm going to be working on this instead this time. I'm
Yeah.
going to develop this. One of my things, I did more cooking. I'm not a big, and I have a wonderful gas. It's beautiful. My kitchen here is gorgeous. I always said I was like, it was way over my head, way more than I needed. But I have enjoyed the ritual of that in
Yeah.
the evening and listening to music. I don't do it every night,
Hmm.
but that is a new thing that I will keep with me as I come out of this
Yes.
again,
Because it
because it's
made you
added
feel
a
good.
lot. Right.
You
Hmm.
had the time to find the little things that makes you feel good.
Yes.
And
Yes,
so now you
exactly.
prioritize in my 24-hour day, which everybody has, where
Mm-hmm.
whoever they are, wherever they are, is what do I really want to give my time to? Is
Yes.
it serving me? Am I serving others? Or am I just, as you said, piling on top of the other, never been able to give
Mhm.
anything my full attention? And
Yeah.
it is a time that beautiful spring cleaning and having, looking at life in a way of, I love doing this. I love doing this for me. I love doing this for other people. I
Hmm.
love what my meaningful purpose is. And unless I'm serving those, they're gone.
Yes. And just being really intentional in your choices. I think a lot of people, they snack on social media.
Yeah.
They're kind of just like, and all the digital that we have access to. If you look at the way our lives have changed in the last 20, 30 years with all of that, we
Mhm.
have, it used to be, our mail was finite. Now we have
Yeah.
the inbox, it never goes away.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
all you get in the mail now are the bills. Yeah.
yes. Well, and in my book, I talk about opportunity clutter
Mm,
because, we kind of have tended, because a lot of it looks like it might have value, but we
mm,
lack the ability to sort through it all. So
yes.
it's kind of, we don't really want to dismiss it. So we end up kind of hoarding
Yeah.
more than we need. And
Shoving
it
it in a
takes,
drawer that gets
it
bigger and
takes,
bigger.
yeah, but even digitally and
Yeah.
mentally, we have all these, and so we can't really focus as well on maybe our pursuits that we want to really
Yeah.
develop, or the people that are in our lives, because we have all these other distractions that we can't quite place anywhere. So, I am one, I love to read at night. That's one
Mm,
way I kind of settle myself down before I go to sleep. And, I know a lot of people, the Netflix and all that, and occasionally I'll watch it, something, but it's really important to decide what's really going to add value to your life.
yeah.
And this is the time to figure that out and to try the new things. And
Yes.
you know I think one of the best things during just a reset is just to get out and walk outside. There's something about nature
Mhm.
that that's my reset place,
Yeah.
always to
Well,
go outside somewhere. Hmm.
the trees, they communicate with each other.
Mm.
Right. The wind is always there to kind of clear away the old and refresh the new. The water is incredible conduit. Seeing a
Hmm.
puppy dog chasing a stick, and a child laughing, all of those things are just opening you up and aligning you and just refreshing you. And it's just pay attention to it, right?
Yes.
Don't be
Be
out there
there.
as you're walking on the phone,
Yes.
right?
Right.
There is life around you. You want to be a part of life, immerse yourself in the life that is around you.
Oh yes, I mean it's the perfect reset. I mean, and I think my brain works better when
Yes.
I'm moving and just
Yeah.
kind of indulging in the sensory experience.
Yeah.
Really seeing what's going on around me. And it reminds you that the world's a little bigger than your little problems.
Right.
It's good to
Exactly.
be. It's good. You have to sometimes remind yourself by looking and going, oh yeah, there's all this.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important to do that.
The solution is to your problem is always around you. You've just got to pay attention to it.
So true. So true. Yeah, that's a lot of it is a matter of our focus. We're
Yeah.
focused on the problem instead of looking.
Yeah.
I used to tell the kids, when you just as I gave them a lot of analogies growing up.
Yes, me too.
They said, yeah, yeah. But you can go into a woods and you can look for debris or you can look for flowers, and you are going to find whichever you are looking for, because that's what your eye's going to gravitate to. And, I like finding the flowers and the buds and the animals. And, if I see the debris, I'll pick it up. Yes. But, I'm not looking for the negatives,
Right.
because enough of them will fall in our path anyways. And then
Yeah.
we get to decide how to redirect them.
And very often when you look at the forest of a broken tree,
Mhm.
um, look at the life coming from it.
Mm.
That's the thing, is that chaos isn't your enemy,
Oh,
right?
no, no.
It's the orderly chaos, the functioning chaos that you need, because
Hmm.
chaos shakes us up and gives us a direction, gives us the clarity we need. And everything is beautiful if you look at it from the right point of view.
We are such creatures of habit. It is
Hmm.
rare that somebody will willingly step from a stable situation and take a chance on something new. And many times when you have one of those rending, something is ripped away from you, context stripped of, whatever your life was, that's when you begin to indulge might be the wrong word, but to develop
Yeah.
in a new direction. And we would not, the last recession we had, there were so many big businesses that
Mm.
grew out of that
Yeah.
time of loss for people. And they never, they don't happen unless there's a space for them to grow.
Right.
And realizing, I look at people that have launched businesses, a lot of them, the developing their lives in a really big and fundamentally new way has come on after something stopped that they didn't
Yes.
want to end.
Yeah.
So
The beautiful redirect.
yeah, exactly. Just
Yeah.
be real, being
Yeah.
willing to pivot and
Mm.
see what else is there.
Don't
Mm-hmm.
focus on what you've lost. Look
Mm.
at the opportunity of what you can gain. I always say is that, be careful of the seeds that you plant, but also remember to water and nurture them. That's the only way they're
Mm.
going to grow. Right?
Right.
What you water will grow. And if you're growing the doubt or the frustration or the hate or anything else, you're going to see more of that. If
Yes.
it's the kindness, the productivity, the creativity, the caringness, the love, that is what's going to grow all around you, and you're in
Yes.
that beautiful vibration, that wonderful aura that then is an invitation to others and an illumination. And
Mm-hmm.
you see more, you are seen more, and just life just becomes a beautiful equilibrium that is wonderful. So it's
Yes.
it's a question of, what are you feeding and
Mm-hmm.
what are you nurturing, and don't forget to nurture yourself.
And that's that voice in your head. That's
Yeah.
your watering can sometimes. So
Yes.
make sure that good
Yes.
things are coming out of that.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We don't want any bleach in there.
No, absolutely not.
We can wash things out, but be careful how you do it. How do people get hold of your books? What programs are you offering people?
Sure, sure. It's easy to find my website, heatherdugan.com. Heather, and Dugan is Dugan. I'm on all social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Books can be found bookstores and Amazon, of course, and the other online options. I do a lot of speaking and I'm doing some, the virtual, but also some hybrid. I'm actually booking now for later in the year, which is very exciting to
Hmm.
actually get on the road again.
Yes.
But, and, I love connecting with people
Yeah.
because I see it as, we kind of, whatever we start, others continue to grow.
Yeah.
And if anything I have written or spoken about, is helpful, that's the wonderful part of doing it, right?
Right.
And I am on YouTube. I'm just remembering there's videos as well.
Right.
So,
Right.
but
And the book, I mean the books, you've got the, sorry, glasses have to go back on. Um,
mm,
it's you've got the books, date like a grown up, which for so many people, whether they're young or older, there's some things we need to know. But
right.
this book at the present moment, The Friendship Upgrade,
Hmm.
trade clickable connections for friendships that matter. This, I think, is even more important right now, because as we
Yes.
come out, of this pandemic. And as we're now integrating back in actually seeing each other, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
modestly, be carefully and all of that type of thing. But it's also a time to kind of, maybe there's some people you don't want to kind of come back into your physical life. There was some spring
Mm-hmm.
cleaning come, and maybe you are opened up to kind of even new relationships. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but the beauty of it is that when you have that actual interaction physically with people, there's just something there where you're feeding each other in such a wonderful way that it
Yes.
gets lost, through
Yes.
Zoom. And the
And
hug too, right? Don't we?
we
I
love
think there's
hugs.
going to be a hug fest when we
Mhm.
get that permission. Everybody's going to be
Exactly.
clinging on to
Exactly.
someone. It's okay, you can let go now.
Yeah, I'm real, I promise. But I think in some ways the book could be helpful in terms of just refreshing your approach to
Yeah,
friendship. And sometimes if you've gotten isolated, it includes a lot of information about how these circumstances, and there's a lot of humor in it. Actually,
right.
both books have a lot of stories of other people as well. But it kind of explains how you land in that place and gives you indeed the tools to kind of begin building your life in a way that's more fun to live, kind of life
Yes.
that other people are going to want to come and be a part of too, you know?
Right. Yes. Again, it's that beacon of light that others want to come and be around. The
Mm-hmm.
music that people want to dance to.
Right.
We all want to be around that person that's joyful.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not a fake joy. We don't want you to be out there kind of just putting it on, but really genuinely be it.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
want to be around that because it invites and ignites that joy within us that sometimes may be lost. So, yeah,
Yes. Yeah, that person is able to see other people as they are and accept them as they are. And
yeah.
that's all we need, really, you know?
I just realized
Hmm.
how beautiful we all are when we allow ourselves to be.
Mm, yes. Yes. And when we're not pretzeling, exactly.
Yes. I mean,
Yes.
life is absolutely fantastic when you put yourself in that frequency, of kindness, of caringness, of love, of
Hmm.
collaboration,
Yes.
of participation. And it is to go in again with that sense of wonderment of
Mm,
just being there with these people, not kind of dictating what you should have from
mm,
them, what their gender is. Forget about that. Just
mhm.
allow and explore each other and allow it to be,
Yes.
because there's something really exciting about that.
Very true. Very true. I appreciate what you're doing. Exactly.
Oh, right back at you, love, right back at you. We forget about that. We forget there's an art to friendships.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is. And the fundamentals are important
Mhm.
because we can mess up a little thing,
Yeah.
and then that creates a block that really prevents, and people go through their lives thinking that there's maybe some defect when actually it's just this one little thing. If you just look at this a little differently,
Yes.
you've got it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. A little
I,
misunderstanding, a word
mm,
said when it shouldn't have been said, or a reaction to something when somebody was sensitive, and
yeah.
it's like, please own your mistakes,
Hmm.
right? Apologize for them. You don't have to kind of grovel. You're going to say,
No.
I realize what I said or what I did upset you. I'm so sorry. It was not meant maliciously. It was a
Hmm.
reaction.
Right.
Can we move forward on this together? And of
Yes.
course, the other person has to
It's
own
on
their
them
part
then.
of it too,
Right.
right? But
Right.
it's all right to make a mistake.
Mm,
Perfectly all right. You're still human.
right. Right. Definitely.
Thank you so much, Heather. This has been wonderful.
Thank you too, Sarah. I appreciated the time with you today.
And remember, folks, friendships are so important. The village is only as strong as we are all participants in it. And people gathering around a circle, dancing and singing and drinking together has always been something since the beginning of time that has brought joy and camaraderie. So as we come out of this pandemic, reach out to your friends and start kind of getting back together and realizing the value of that friendship, because it truly, truly is an extraordinary value. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many, many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.